Good, all right. We'll get ready here. We'll call the MPU Commission first.
Okay, MBU Commission will call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum.
Perfect, and we will call the special council meeting to order at this time also, and we have all present. Alderwoman Kaderabek is joining via Zoom. So we'll start with MPU side, if you want, just to talk about the one item we both have.
And we'll hand it off to Troy, and you can go through kind of the idea of moving the wastewater treatment plant facility, transferring it from the city to MPU.
You want to turn that mic to you, just so it's facing. Yeah, thank you.
4 years ago, the city had approached MPU to explore transitioning and transferring the wastewater treatment facility to MPU. The rationale was MPU is a operationally based organization, and that the thought was that there would be a good fit, that there would be synergies for cost savings, and MPU and the city had then entered into an intergovernmental agreement for 3 years as an opportunity to test that theory. At the end of those 3 years, it had been determined that yes, there were synergies, and that there was an advantage for MPU to oversee the wastewater treatment facility. So MPU had come back to council and had requested a 1-year extension to the intergovernmental agreement in order to figure out the logistics for a transition. And that year extension really was to look at how it would work to transition the people, the employees of the wastewater treatment facility, looking at the cash reserves and the rate that was for wastewater, and deciding how to handle that. And then looking at operationally some of the other things like DNR and some of the things with the demarcation of where the property line is. So one of the things that we had started right away was to have a cost of service study done. We wanted to look at what of wastewater was collections and what was treatment, because part of this whole process was to split collections and treatment, and collections would stay with the city because it's in the streets, and the treatment would be transferred to MPU. The rate previously had just been one rate that would collect enough revenue to support both sides of that business. So MPU brought in a consultant to look at where that line was and developed a plan which was attached with the memo. The MPU Commission has already approved that transition, or that cost of service study, and would be looking for council to approve that cost of service study as well. A couple of notes in that there was a recommendation from the consultant to change how a number of the connection fees are done. And so that's laid out in that memo, and we would be looking to do that too. And with the split, there would now be fees that would go to be remitted back to the city, and there would be fees that would stay with MPU, but in sum, it would be the same total that they were before. It was the intent of the study. At the commission meeting, when this was approved, there was some discussion if there is intent to do a rate increase. MPU and the city probably would do the same, a similar rate increase. And so we would still need to work that out, but the study that's attached is proposed with no increase in rates, just splitting it into two parts. So related to that, the city and utility staff also went through an evaluation of the debt and finances, and used some methodology to determine the split of the cash reserves. And so that's kind of laid out in the memo. One of the advantages of developing a separate rate for collections and determining where that split is that the city actually retains portion of the reserves for a cash flow purpose and also to have for emergency for replacing that, but then also has a rate that this council will be in charge of that they can set to cover costs and be able to look at future capital costs and establish an appropriate reserve for what your future capital outlay is. A couple of other things that we have coming up that we're gonna have to do is have the ordinances revised to reflect the split. Collections rates would need to be put into city ordinance, and the ordinance would need to be revised to reflect that the MPU commission now has authority over the wastewater treatment facility. That is in the works. The city council's previous attorney by contract had completed a draft, but we didn't have it ready to bring tonight, so that would have to come back at a later meeting. And we would also still need to have approval for the transfer of assets, which includes establishing where that demarcation line, and we are recommending that it would be at the headwaters, or essentially where the collection pipes hit the building. So the city would own the piping coming in the building, and MPU would be in charge of the treatment facility then. So this was reviewed and considered by the MPU commission at the last meeting, and the commission had approved unanimously to move forward and make the recommendation, and I'll turn it back to Dan to talk a little bit on behalf of the commission.
Great. Thank you, Troy. I think, first of all, I want to thank all the efforts that went into this on both sides of, with both organizations, because I think there are a couple of people here, and some of them are listening to us here in the audience. They've spent a lot of time putting all this together and trying to figure this out, so it's fair not only to the MPU, but also to the city. It will be, some of your employees will be also transferred in this process, and we're just looking at authority to kind of move forward so we can put all these pieces together between the two organizations and kind of finalize it. So with that, I'll just hand it over to you, Mayor.
Thank you. Yeah, so the MPU commission already approved this, so it's up to council tonight to finalize it. Again, as mentioned, the final ordinances are drafted. It's just fine tuning them, and those will come back. But this would be to ensure that the effective transfer date is as of December 31st, 2022 to January 1st, 2023.
And we're open to any questions that any of you have.
Yeah, as mentioned, this was about a 4-year process, so a lot of work and detail put into it. So are there any questions from the council at this time or comments? Alderman Sitkowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the council's representative on MPU, I want to echo something Dan Horning said, was that throughout this process, it really, one of the goals was to make sure that both entities were treated equal as the separations between collections and treatment. And that's an important part of it, that going forward, that both assets, or both the entities have the assets available to continue services as well as it had been run in the previously. And that's important because we're the ones that field the phone calls and deal with the collection side of it when that's not working. There isn't too much that the public deals with when the operation side is nobody really goes into the details of what's happening down at the treatment side of it. So they just worry about when they flush that it's taken care of. So that was important, that we were making sure that both sides were treated fairly as a city as well, that we have the resources to continue operations as we have been in the past. So, but thank you to the MPU Commission for keeping that in mind throughout this process. And again, staff over the last 4 years from the city and MPU, and some previous staff that was available to us for crunching the numbers did a great job, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, Alderman Sitkowitz. Alderman Bry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess, and most of you know this already, and Troy, thank you for your presentation, and along with you, Dan, as well. It's kind of bittersweet for me, and as most of you know, I worked at the wastewater treatment facility while I was attending the University of Stevens Point. And I don't think there's anybody left there from when I was there. I think they're all gone. Jim Revelinski was probably the last one to retire when I was there. But anyways, I guess I feel confident moving forward with this process. I've always been impressed with MPU and wastewater, and give them a lot of credit too, because they're thinking, am I potentially losing my job here? Is it going to continue on? the way it should be? I think it is, and I have ultimate confidence in MPU running this facility the way it should be done. So thank you both, the MPU and especially the wastewater. You guys have a big hand in this as well too, because you've done a wonderful job for eternity for the city of Manitowoc. And as Alderman Sikowitz says, you know, most people are just concerned with flushing their toilet, make sure the water goes away, the waste goes away, but until they see the other side of it, and I know you've been open to having tours there, and it's an interesting process how that all comes in and ends out as mostly clean, semi-clean water when it's discharged at the end, after the tertiary filters and the rock filter. I forgot my process a little bit. It's been a while since I actually went through that plant, but anyways, good luck to everybody. I'm sure we'll be fine, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Alderman Bryant. Any other discussion? Otherwise, I would look for a motion to approve the official transfer of the wastewater treatment facility to Manitowoc Public Utilities. Motion by Sakala, second by Sitkowitz. All right, any further discussion on this? Alderman Reckelberg.
Well, I'm sure they're gonna do a good job. I mean, we've got good people on the commission there, and I've got no problem with that. I'm kind of sad that it came to this, because I'm gonna vote no. Not that they're not gonna do a good job, it's just I didn't like to see the city get to this point. And it's mainly from a cash flow standpoint, which he brought up, how much cash do we get, how much cash do they get? And knowing our finances on the city side now, seeing how we're using fund balances to plug this, that, and the next thing, and you have to, but it's gonna be interesting next year. And so I just want people to know why I'm voting no. Any other way, I wish there would have been another way to handle it. I know there was, but it's too late in the process, and so I'm not even gonna bring that up. So I wish you luck. I just want you to know why I'm voting no. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion to approve? Seeing none, then all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 8-2 with Alders Vanderkin and Reckelberg voting no. Thank you. So that is the official transfer. I too want to echo all the statements. Thank you to MPU, to Cindy, Don, Mike, all those on the MPU side that made this possible over the last Neelash, even back when he was there and started this process with the first agreement. And on our side, our attorneys and our staff in finance, Steve Corbell, who we brought in at the last minute to. It was a major decision for the city in the history of the city to move this over to MPU, but I believe in the long run, obviously, all the decisions we make, the citizens are going to benefit the most from the outstanding staff, the expertise, the knowledge that the folks at MPU have over utilities, and I think this is going to be a good thing at the end of the day for the citizens. So thank you to everyone involved. Appreciate all the work. That's all we have. MPU Commission, if you want to do anything at this point?
Do we need to adjourn?
Well, we would like to officially also recognize, even though he's not here.
All right.
Yeah, we do have one member who's been on for, well, do we have the plaque? Can we at least read the plaque maybe, the numbers or the years? 22?
2 years.
22 years. Dave Luco has served on the MPU Commission. Unfortunately, he is resigning due to moving outside of the city limits, but we do want to publicly thank him for his 22 years of service to the citizens of the city of Manitowoc, serving on the MPU Commission. Ironically, also served on the wastewater treatment facility board for, do you have that number too? No, all right. Served on the wastewater, before we dissolved the wastewater treatment facility board, served on there for many, many years. Of course, working for Anheuser-Busch, Riverland Ag, and now Brees. So we want to wish Dave Luco the best in his retirement from MPU, but much success for the next chapter of his life. I don't know if you want to add anything, Dan?
Sure, I think, Dave's been around for quite a while and really provides the operations side of a plant as his expertise in what he brings to the utility. So each one of us brings a little different expertise to the utility. He has really been really good as far as how an operations plant, how important it is for us to be reliable. And he's always been pushing that. He's always been pushing for low rates, especially it comes with a steam rate, but that's, But he's always been a real valuable asset to our utility commission. So we appreciate all that he's done.
Absolutely. Troy, you want to add anything or any other commission members?
Thank you for everyone who put in all the work in this transition. I know that there are many hours, many staff hours spent to try and see this through, to cover all the details, and it did not go unnoticed. Thank you very much.
All right, yeah, so if the, Alderman Bry, sorry.
And I echo the comments about Dave as well. I've known him many years, and he's one of my constituents who have now essentially lost from my district, but best of luck, Dave. But I guess while I have the commission here, if it's all right with you, Mr. Mayor, now with the vacancy on the MPU commission, as the Finance Committee Chair, is my intention to issue a press release next week to look for candidates for the for the open board position. Hopefully by the end of December, we can have a list of candidates to bring to the I'm sorry, I got the wrong page here. To my Finance Committee meeting on January, tentatively scheduled right now for the first Monday, January 2nd. So hopefully we'll have some candidates for that meeting and we'll make a recommendation. As you're well aware, it will go to the Common Council on January 16th then. But it's also an election. The nomination from the Finance Committee is a nomination, but it still offers the rest of the Common Council to nominate other people as well. So it is an election, but we want to get the process started as early as possible and hopefully finish it up in January so you're not minus a member for too long, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Bry. Anything else for the good of the order? Otherwise, MPU Commission, if you'd like to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
So, second, we're adjourned.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn for the council? Sekala Sekots, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.